So this video is mostly about my feelings towards Bleach and how much it means to me. So Bleach is the one series I have the most nostalgic for than any other shonen. I don't know why, I can't really explain why, but the Soul Society arc, to all of its soundtracks and how that arc was handled, I just have the most nostalgic for Bleach in that arc in particular. I can't really explain why, it's just how I feel, and I love that feeling. And I don't agree with this nostalgic argument everyone keeps using this year. I believe anything can hold up 20 years later, depending if the creator wrote his material well enough where it's able to age just fine in comparing it to the other storytellings with other newer shonens. I think Soul Society arc is a damn good arc, and I really do believe it's better than Naruto's Land of Waves arc. I honestly do believe that. The Soul Society arc is just executed very well with plot-wise, and Ichiko's and Byakuga's relationship and their dynamic, and how he wants to challenge Byakuga with his ideology about not wanting to protect Rukia. Byakuga was at a disadvantage with himself, like he didn't know what to do. And Byakuga just doesn't tell anyone how he surely feels. He just respected the law the entire time. He fought Ichiko, and then he fought Renji, and everything else with Myra Kurotsuchi versus Uryu. Everything about this arc, all the fights were connected to some reason why they had to fight for what they were doing. I don't know, I feel like the Soul Society arc was really handled very well, and I don't believe this whole nostalgic argument is true. I do believe the Soul Society arc holds up very well today. It's a very good arc with plot and character and relationships with other characters, and just how things were executed, and the whole Aizen plot twist that he was the villain the entire time, etc. I think Soul Society arc is just an amazing arc. Now then, my personal feelings towards Bleach with character-wise, I used to criticize Kubo for his character writing. I used to think there was no character in Bleach. And I was wrong. I understand why Bleach is considered the weakest of the big three, and I understand why a lot of people are trying to see what others saw in Bleach, because I had the same issue. Bleach is definitely one of those series, the more that you watch it, you start to understand why people love it, and you start to understand why people like it more than the other two in the big three. It took me years, but I'm still trying to progress some things I just never saw in Bleach, even today. And I don't know, I feel like the more you watch it, the more you can respect what Kubo was going for. And I've seen a lot of reviews on Bleach recently about people saying, I dropped Bleach years ago, and I'm finally reading Bleach after a while. I used to disrespect Bleach, but then I came back and I love it. I've seen reviews of that recently, and I'm glad people are saying Bleach is better than Naruto and One Piece. I'm glad people are not afraid to say they love Bleach more than the others in the big three. I'm glad people are respecting Bleach more. I'm finally trying to make that effort too, that I feel like I've given Bleach not enough credit. And I think the real reason is because I think Kubo mainly drives his characters with personality more than anything. Bleach is known for character writing with personality, and Kubo had great style with his characters, the way that how he drew his characters in general. I know for my taste that I just prefer characters with a little more complex and more deeper detail and depth, and I feel like because of that character writing bias that I prefer, that's why I connect more to Ulquiorra, because I feel like Ulquiorra had the most complex, especially in his backstory in Unmasked, that is not in the official manga series novel book, if you want to check that out. But I don't know, I feel like Ulquiorra just had the best complex backstory, and just his perspective on what the heart is and what are feelings and emotions. I feel like that was very complex, more than anything that Kubo really ever did with his characters. And I know characters driven by personality is not a bad thing. It's not. It's just, for me, there's nothing to really get out of any other characters if they were all driven by the exact same, not the exact same personality, but the concept of just being driven by personality more than anything. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's just not my kind of character writing. But I started to appreciate what Bleach is now, that these characters are not complex. They're not all dark and depressing with very sad lives. Like Naruto has a very dark storytelling, and every child in Naruto pretty much suffers, and it's really easy to get behind the characters in Naruto because they're so relatable, because they go through so much tragic in their life. Bleach is not a depressing story. It's not a dark story. It's a very fun battle shonen, characters driven by personality. Nothing is too complex. Bleach is just definition of what you would call a better Dragon Ball Z, in my opinion. Even though that Bleach is not darker or as intense as Naruto, that doesn't mean that Bleach is inferior to Naruto. There's a lot of things about Bleach you can find easily better written than Naruto. I think Ichigo has a better personality than Naruto, and I think his common sense is a lot easier to handle compared to Naruto's, to be honest. But I would say that Kishimoto has a better plot, character-driven with his story, rather than character-driven with Tite Kubo. But that's just because they both went completely different directions with their character writing. I may not connect with everything in Bleach because of that reason, but I can still appreciate Bleach for what it is, for what Kubo was writing. You know, I'm finally acknowledging my issues with Bleach. I just feel like I'm just comparing everything that I love to be a little more complex, a little more deep. But I don't know, that's just my bias. I just prefer character writing to go further and further. And that's why I think Okiura did it most for me in Bleach than any other character, because it gave me what I wanted, while everyone else didn't. But if you connect with personalities more than like ideology and dark backstory, that is completely fine as well. You got something out of it that I didn't. Everyone sees things differently. But I started to appreciate Bleach's character writing a lot more now. And I can't wait. Like, I really want to review it when it comes back in the anime next year. I plan on reviewing the episodes depending what the episode is. Not every episode is going to be on point or, you know, exciting to review. So hopefully there's a lot of things to talk about in the very beginning of Bleach's War. And I'm going to be honest, I want Bleach's War to be miles better than Naruto's War. I know Bleach's War had a lot of issues like Naruto's War arc, but I heard Tite Kubo is very involved in the anime, so he might change a few things. I hope Byakuya stays dead, what I heard. I think Byakuya should have died as a character, what I remember reading 4 years ago. But yeah, I want Bleach to surpass Naruto in writing when it comes to its War arc. The way that how he wanted it because he was rushed and Shonen Jump was pushing him out, very unfair. So yeah, I want Bleach to be better than Naruto in its last remaining arc. I really want Bleach to surpass Naruto in writing. In its last final arc. I feel like that really deserves a lot. You know, just because Naruto fell off, I don't want that to happen with Bleach. I want Bleach to get the best perspective that it can to its audience and its fans, and Tite Kubo to do what he always wanted to do with the series because he was sick at the time. Now let me tell you something from my perspective about this argument people have been debating about for years now. Did Bleach go downhill after the Soul Society arc? I don't like the Arrancar arc too much at all. I think it has amazing moments and great fights when Kubo wants to show you the great fights. Ichigo versus Grimmjow, amazing choreographed fight with what he was going for with their relationship, and they're both perspective of rivals, and one wants to fight the other and the other doesn't want to admit it, but Ichigo keeps pushing to protect Orihime, and Grimmjow keeps pushing Ichigo to admit that you're here to fight me, man. Like, Grimmjow just keeps pushing Ichigo, and it makes the fight more worth it and better with storytelling because there's a reason why these two characters are fighting in the first place. Same thing with Okiura fighting Ichigo. They are both fighting for what they believe in. Okiura believes that Ichigo is fighting a pointless battle because Okiura can't understand feelings and emotions, and Ichigo is pushing and pushing for something that he's just not going to get. He's fighting an empty, worthless battle, but Ichigo knows that Okiura is too strong, but he keeps trying to prove him wrong over and over again. This chemistry works very well for their fight. Another great executed fight by Tite Kubo. Noritora versus Kenpachi Zaraki. Not a very strong dynamic of a fight, why these two characters are fighting. Regardless, like, the fight itself is really fun to watch, really awesome. You don't really need a good story why these two characters are fighting. It's just a really fucking awesome battle between Kenpachi and Noritora. Now then, those are some really great fights that I really love about the Arrancar arc. Some of these fights had better storytelling with them and some of them didn't. But for the most part, this arc just gives me pointless battles. Arrancar fights with characters / villains that we just don't care for and we're never going to see again. I don't care. I don't like these fights. A lot of this arc was just bloated with characters and fights that are just not memorable. The Arrancar arc, to me, I like to compare it to Naruto's first half of its war arc, that there's a lot of pointless battles and characters you just don't care anymore, and characters you just never cared for. The war arc at the very beginning of Naruto is how I feel about the Arrancar arc in Bleach sometime. It's just an arc with moments. Both of these arcs just both come off to me as an arc with moments, and that's it. And there's a lot of episodes I skip, and there's a lot of episodes I don't like. I feel like people think a good arc makes a good arc when we get introduced to more characters, like the Espada. People think the Arrancar arc is better just because of the Espada. Honestly, do you care about everyone in the Espada? No, mostly people care about Noritora, Grimmjow, and Okiura more than the others. Probably because, like I mentioned, they had the most dynamic with the main character than any other Espada did. And the other Espada who fought the captains, a lot of these fights were dragged out for episodes. And I heard Tite Kubo was not happy with Studio Period of how dragged out these fights were. And they weren't supposed to be this long. And I agree. These fights are just not memorable. And it's also about reasons why these characters are fighting. I feel like a lot of these fights lack execution, why two characters are fighting, why any character is fighting. These just come up as fights for the sake of fighting, like Naruto's Warwick. Some characters are fighting for the sake of fighting. Like, what made Naruto fight so good, and what made some of the Bleach fights so good, why these characters are connected with the other characters, why they want to fight or kill each other. When it comes to the Arrancar arc, I just don't feel that. A lot of these battles are just stupid, in my opinion. They're just not memorable. Like, do you care about the Arrancar that Ichigo fought, or the Arrancar that Udio fought? Like, do you care about these characters? I just don't have it in me to really feel like it's worth anything. Now then, that's from my perspective. But comparing the Arrancar arc to the Soul Society, in my opinion, everything about the Soul Society was just on point. Why characters are fighting, the execution of the plot, the whole Rukia thing, why they had to save her, and the Byakuya and the Uchiko relationship, why those two characters had a fight, and the Aizen twist, and everything about the Soul Society was just, it just had a great storytelling of everything. The fighting, the interest, the mystery, the who's and whys. You know, this whole arc was just really awesome. I think Tite Kubo did an amazing job in the Soul Society arc. I just feel like the storytelling, there's not really one fight you can really think of that was pointless. Every fight, mostly in the Soul Society, had a purpose why these events are happening. You know, I can't give an arc a pass just because it gave us the Espada. I can't give Naruto Shippuden a pass just because it gave us the Akaksi. I feel like the balance and the structure and the execution all matters, not just because we were given characters. You know, sometimes you got to think about the story, not just because we got a character that's driving the plot to go forward. Everything else that comes after also has to be, well, at least a good amount of good writing. But for the most part, from my perspective, I just treat the Arrancar arc the exact same way how I feel about Naruto's Warwick. I like both of these arcs with moments. Not everything is great in these arcs, not every episode is on point, and there's just a lot of pointless battles, in my opinion. I just don't like the Arrancar arc as much as Soul Society. I really hope the War arc is going to be better, because I heard the War arc actually gives depth with more characters and better backstory and great detail of things that we always wanted to know about other characters. I heard the War arc actually gives the execution of how everything comes together and the mysteries of Bleach. So I'm really hyped for the War arc. I can probably tell it's going to be miles better than the Arrancar arc. But that is just my opinion. I really do believe, truly, that the Soul Society arc is just miles better than the Arrancar arc. And as much as I love Grimmjow no Kyora, it was just not enough for me to say the entire arc was an A. I just feel like the Arrancar arc is just not as interesting as Soul Society. But those are my opinions. I'm DLX, subscribe if you want, and stay Bleach weird, and have a good night. Bye.